Hello and welcome to another midnight showing. As always, I'm Kelly, and I got out of Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, this morning. Okay, quick little note, my thoughts are going to be a little bit more refined on this than usual, because I actually saw this at 11 this morning, but I had to go straight to work right afterwards, so I didn't have time to make a video. So I just barely got off work, as you can see, with my wonderful work shirt, and I'm going to make this video for you. So let's go on. For those who don't want spoilers, I actually kind of enjoyed this one. To give people an idea of what kind of a Lord of the Rings fan I am, just wanted to grab a few things like my Sword of the King. Yes, this is actually a Sword of the King. As well as... should take these out before. Legolas's wooden elves. Freeze on that for a second. Now I'm gonna have a badass thumbnail. But, my opinion of Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, it's got problems, but it's amazing. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't think that opinion. My opinion of the past two Hobbits, the first one was really good. The second one is where I have 90% of my problems. And this third one, I actually thought felt a lot like the first one. It felt like something big was happening around them, and they were facing the consequences of what they'd done mixed with that. It was kind of nice. The battle sequences was very, very well shot and organized. They spent a lot of time on tactics, explaining where everybody is and how they're working against each other, what the plan is. It's a really tactical heavy. The whole movie is basically one big action scene, and there's maybe a 20-30 minute build up to it after getting out of an action scene where there's a spoiler. But yeah, most movies can't do these full 2-hour action scenes very well, and this movie did it very well. It was really, really smart about it. If there was one major issue I had, it was with the end. The ending is not strong at all, and I think it's because Peter Jackson was listening to the complaints about Return of the King. The Return of the King has so many endings, and he didn't want to have that same thing happen with the end of this trilogy, which really should have been only maybe 2 movies, but I'll get to that later. So the ending is really abrupt and not very strong. But yeah, is it worth seeing in theaters? Absolutely. I would recommend this to anybody, and I'm so glad I get to do that recommendation again after Exodus last week. So, yeah, for those who don't want any spoilers, you go see this film. It's worth every penny of it. And for those who want to stay for spoilers, well, let's get started. And because I want to play with my swords a little bit more, I'm going to have them up here. So, as I said, this is one big action scene. Most people are not going to want that necessarily, but it's what you got. And what they got, they did it very well. The good parts. The guy who played Thorin, very, very well done inside this one especially. He's supposed to be slowly going mad because they finally got the treasure and the Arkenstone. He can't find it. It's driving him mad because Bilbo found it in the last movie and has been keeping it from him, afraid of what's going to happen if he gives it to him. So, yeah, they're going at it. He's slowly descending into madness the whole movie until his obligatory redemption about 2/3 of the way through the film. And it's... God, the guy is just very, very good. My only problem with his character on that one is that the movie starts and he's already basically gone mad with gold and power. We didn't really see much of that in the end of the second film. It just kind of felt abrupt starting, but the progression from where it starts is very well done. The CGI didn't bother me as much inside of this one because I hate the fact that the Hobbit movies are relying so much on CGI. One of the best things about Lord of the Rings is the practical effects they use. They actually destroyed some models, and they CGI'd over some of the textures so you couldn't tell whether it was CGI or practical. All of the orcs inside of the original one had their own costumes and all of their own makeup designs. They were all amazing. They're scary. And this one we get David Bowie King Goblin. David Bowie playing another Goblin King. And Smaug, he looks cool and all, but let's face it, they didn't really need that. There's so much CGI in all three of these films, that I just hate it. Why not build some actual sets and have CGI in the background? Take the X-Men Days of Future Past approach. Build an entire big ass set, and the one parts that you can't build around, green screen everything else. That way, when you add depth to it, these aren't hard things to figure out, and Peter Jackson is constantly just throwing the CGI in this movie. It didn't feel as bad because, again, the CGI allowed for doing some really, really cool effects inside of the battle. A lot of the orcs are actually really there inside when they're attacking the Lake Town people inside the city. They're actually there. There's some practical and costume there, actually there, and it's one of the reasons why it didn't bother me as much inside this film. More with the good. Okay, the best part about this is that every problem I have with this film, I have with the other two films and the original story. It didn't do anything that really newly bugged me. There's some nuanced things that I'm like, okay, but there's nothing that actually outright, just, what the hell am I watching moments. It really is a very good, well-shot, directed film. And the characters were all really good. The movie the problem with the original Hobbit story is that there's way too many dwarves. I'm sorry, 13? Maybe 3 of them are important. Thorin, Doran, and Kiri. Kiri because they added a love triangle with him. Which, that didn't bug me as much inside of this film. I hated that in the second film. I bitch about that every time someone brings it up. It's so forced. It's so contrived. And there's only 2 ways it can end. And the way that it ends in here was very well handled, but predictable. Kiri dies. If you know the book, he dies in the book also. Oh well. Tyrael, the elf they fell in love with, actually falls. Actually, is like holding his corpse as the king. Oh, another really good thing. The King of the Elves in this. He just played kind of cartoon, I'm the jackass who gets what he wants without actually doing shit. And I hate it when people keep things from me. No, he actually has motivation in this. He's trying to reclaim some ancient jewels that they made up for this movie. But, yeah, he helps the survivors of Lake Town after they were attacked by Smaug. He does demand that they be on his side and help inside of the fight against the dwarves if it comes to that. But he's actually listening to Bard when he says, "Let me go and negotiate with them. They owe us. We can work this out without war. We've already seen enough bloodshed." And he plays it very, very well reserved. He actually has dignity and honor, which is not something that you got from the last film, because you thought he was just bloody crazy. The guy's still a dick. And at the end of the film, he has a little bit of a redemption moment with Legolas when Legolas decides not to go back to Mirkwood, and with Tyrael when she's crying over Kiri's dead body. Earlier, he was called out because he tried to pull his forces out of the battle before it ended. Tyrael called him out for being a heartless bastard, and that the reason why nobody likes the elves and why he and Legolas and Tyrael don't listen to him is because he's a jackass and there's no love in his heart. Well, they mentioned that his wife died inside of an ancient battle in Angmar, which, okay, there's one thing that bugs me, but I'll bring that up in a second. But, yeah, he, when she's crying over him, it's like, why does it hurt so much? If this is love, I don't want it. Take it from me. Why does it hurt so much? And he says, he's actually sympathetic with her, and he says, it hurts so much because it was real. And from that moment, he's like, everything clicks. He lost everything that he put up. He's lost his wife, he's a heartless bastard, and all that. It hurts. It's some depth to this character. It makes him a lot more likable and relatable. I applaud that. And the actor who played him, I don't know his name, he's really, really good. And you're noticing that I actually do like a lot of the stuff in here. The final battle between, Thorn and, Azog, the armless one, was really, really well done. But it does show how much Legolas was shoehorned into the movie with his battle of Bog, I don't know, happening far away, and then they magically start getting closer and closer and closer, and Legolas kills his guy just in time to throw the sword that he took from him in the last movie up to him so he can fight Azog. And it's just, he's so shoehorned in. You could have just started that entire battle and given Thorin the sword that he was supposed to have. It's that simple. Cut out Legolas, but that's part of my problem with the other movies is the padding. They throw in subplots and extra characters and things to make you think it's Lord of the Rings, when it's actually The Hobbit. It's okay to throw in things that connect to the future stuff, but throwing in extra characters, a love triangle, the crap with the King's Foil, all this other crap with the Master that nobody give a shit about. Thank God he was cut from this film, and he's actually supposed to be part of the book, politics of the book, where he's constantly bitching with Bard at the end. They just killed him off so they avoided all that, and it made the movie so much better. I'm sorry. It was just one of those things. It's like, why? Yeah, it's just all around. I went to this movie and I was fun. I enjoyed myself, and it's the first time I've done that in a long time since I started doing these videos. I mean, I always find something to bitch about, but it's the first time I actually walked out of a movie and said, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and I enjoyed that a lot. Not in the Walk Among the Tombstones way where everything was creepy and disturbing and I feel like I'm gonna... But yeah, I'll go see that again. The only other movie I think I've done that with is Big Hero 6. Which, if you haven't seen that... going on, some of the things that bug me now, let's go into the bit of the bad. As I said, all the problems from the other films, the overuse of CGI, the constant pandering of, this is Lord of the Rings, this is Lord of the Rings. It's not. It's The Hobbit. Treat it as such. Now, I'm not one of those ones that's going to say that The Hobbit is a children's story. It's not. But The Lord of the Rings is a trilogy of books about saving the world by throwing a piece of jewelry into a mountain. But it's about saving the world. The Hobbit is about a company of people trying to reclaim their homeland by stealing from a dragon and facing the consequences of that decision. It's not a kid's story, but it's not Lord of the Rings. You have to treat it differently. You have to shoot it differently. And the other films... The first one I liked because it kept the focus on the company, on their journey, and something was happening around them. The second movie, they're trying to pander so much that this is like the most important thing. This is going to save the world. This is going to do all this other stuff. No, it's not. It's going to... The dwarves are going to be able to move back into a mountain. That's all that happens. And in this other part, it treats it like that. The dwarves try to move back in the mountain. Everybody tries to take the treasure from them because the dragon's gone. They try to throw in some BS about the orcs and people wanting to take it over so that because it's a strategic place that'll help the rise of Angmar. And this is the part that I get really... This is the part that was bugging me that I was talking about earlier. Angmar and Erebor are really far from each other. If you've ever seen the maps, or played any of the games, or seen the maps that, Tolkien drew up himself, Angmar is here, Erebor is here. Nowhere near each other. You still have Bree, the marshlands, Mirkwood, and all this other stuff before you get to Erebor. It has no strategic value to Angmar. Yet they're treating them like they're next to each other. They're not. And you can fiddle with geography and space and all that stuff unless somebody knows the map. This has a set map. They've shown it to you many times when they do the stupid pull away from pull away onto the map and zoom in on Gondor or Middle Earth or something inside the other films. They've shown you this map that Tolkien has made. They are not next to each other. They are very far away. And it doesn't help Angmar at all to take Thorin's Hall in Erebor. It doesn't. It's... As I said, this is a nitpick from somebody who just knows a lot about this series. And it bugs me when they were doing that the entire time. Like, stop it! It'll take them months to go from Erebor to Angmar. There's no strategic value. Maybe if you're trying to invade someone like Gondor, which is on the other side of this mountain range. But it doesn't do Angmar any goddamn good. But they keep making this claim about how it's going to help raise Angmar from the ashes so that they can take over all of the Westlands again. Stop it! As I said, there's nitpicks like that. One of the things that kind of really did kind of bog this movie down a bit is its need to try to make things both kiddish and... what's the word? Comical. See, when bigger trilogies and things finish up like this, you have to... You start to subtract comedy. You start to subtract happier things and save those for the resolution. But for the setups and the rising action and the climax, you can throw in little jokes or things here and there. But they got distracting with theirs. The servant guy from the last movie, who served the master, the unibrow. You know him as the unibrow black robe guy. He's basically a cutout of the person the guy from the Two Towers. But yeah, he brought him back. They killed off the master, who was in the same boat as the damn guy, but they brought him back because he got kicked out of the boat earlier, and the dragon didn't land on him. The whole time, he's trying to kiss up to Bard, who is basically the leader of this, and they keep telling him, you turned down the power, you didn't want to be the king, and why would you do this? I'm like, bullshit. He is their leader. He's rallying them, he's getting them food, he's leading them to sit at the shelter. He's their fucking leader. Don't call him the king. You don't need to call him a king. Call him the president. Call him the general for all I care. Call him Bowman. But they kept them around, and all he's there for is a cheap joke. That literally is his entire role throughout the rest of this film is a cheap joke that they, oh, we're all being attacked by orcs. You guys held up here. Don't worry, I'll get them to the safety place that you told me to get, that you told the children and women to go to. I need every man to fight with me. Here, take this sword. After you've lead them, come find me. Of course. He goes off, he instantly throws the sword at the kid and runs into the safe zone. It is so dumb. This one joke, they keep going back to it. Every single time they involve all of the race of men, all the people from Lake Town. You keep cutting back to it. There's a point where he cross-dresses as a woman. There's a point where he finds gold and he tries to sneak away in the middle of the battle with it, while hiding it inside of the boobs on his dress. I mean, it is just, it's forced. It is so forced, and it is just annoying and distracting. Come on. They do a couple of other, there's one joke that really does work that's funny. The dwarves have rebuilt the gate that, well, not really gate, they basically just took all the rubble and they built a wall out of it to cover up the gate that Smaug smashed through in the last movie. And the elves and Bard ride up, all the elves inside of their stupid bowman formations and everything, and behind the king and Bard in front. They come to take the mountain, basically. Thorin shoots an arrow at their feet and says, "The next one goes between your eyes if you don't leave." Yeah! All the other dwarves, yeah! This is awesome! Yeah! Yeah, we'll see what you got! Yeah! The king cracks a side smile, raises his hand, and of course, all of the freaking, every single one of the elves, just so you get it, they pull out their bows in synchronized fashion. And every single one of the dwarves ducks except for Thorin. And you just see him like roll his eyes. And it gets a good laugh. Those types of moments are okay. Because you can see the punchline and it doesn't disrupt the mood. He could easily kill all 12 of them that are left up there. But yeah. It's just one of those ones. It's just, yeah, that's a good joke. But then you have the human guy who's just sitting there doing the same thing the entire movie. And it's dumb. It gets old fast. But yeah, as I said, nitpick there. Bog was no real threat in this. I don't even know why they allowed him to kill Kire. You could just, why him? It's a problem I have from the last film too. He's a discount Azog, and Azog is, they even say that he's Azog's spawn. Okay, and okay, there is one other big issue. This is one from the actual book, well, from all of the movies. The book actually does have an explanation for it. And I don't mind that this happens. My problem is that they don't ever explain it in any of the other the other 5 films in the entire Lord of the Rings franchise. I'm sorry. They don't ever explain it. The eagles show up and they save everyone inside of the climax by also bringing Radagast and Beorn, the guy who turns into the bear. In the book, the eagles do show up, but it's Beorn who shows up after them to save everybody. And he's the true Deus Ex Machina. This time they just gathered all those guys up together and they basically kicked ass. But yeah, they're saved by the eagles again, and by God, they forced freaking Bilbo, Freeman, to say the line that we all crack up and just start joking about. The eagles are coming! The eagles are coming! The eagles are coming! Yes, the eagles do save everyone as a Deus Ex Machina that is... My problem was that they never explained them in the movies. It would take one conversation, a paragraph from freaking Gandalf, and all is done. All is done. Never happens once in 6 films. How many times have we bitched and moaned about the Eagles? Not enough, apparently, because you didn't even think to put an explanation inside The Hobbit where they actually matter. For those who don't know the story behind the Eagles, they are not really gods so much. They're just beings. They can actually talk inside of the Lord of the Rings, or inside of the actual books and whatnot. Gandalf saved their leader a long time ago, but they like to stay out of affairs of the land creatures, because land creatures have a habit of hunting them. They want to help Gandalf, but they don't want to be involved and risk their species, because they are often hunted. It's one of the reasons why they are such good fighters, because they're always getting attacked. But they didn't want to get involved, so that's why they only carried them part of the way inside of the first Hobbit. And they came to Gandalf's aid in this last one because they said, screw it, Gandalf's gonna die. And Gandalf is the one who actually asked them for help. They went there because Gandalf was in trouble. You're seeing a pattern here inside of the first Fellowship of the Ring, or not the Fellowship, but no, yeah, it's the Fellowship. It's the Fellowship. Yeah, inside of the Fellowship of the Ring, when he's on top of Isengard, he calls for their help, and they help him. When they show up at the freaking end of the Return of the King, they show up to help Gandalf. There's a reason these things don't get involved. But why they're Deus Ex Machinas. And yeah, they saved the day. All tactics, it's just the enemy had them outnumbered, and now they needed some air support. Yeah, so I should probably end this pretty quickly here. To wrap it up, as I said, this was a really fun experience. All the problems I have with this movie, I've had with all of the other films, especially the ones inside of The Hobbit. The story, all of its problems are from the book also. There's way too many dwarves. You don't need 13. 5. That would be good. 3 important ones, and then 2 for muscles. That's all you need. But, and then Smaug. God, I feel bad for anybody who didn't know about this, but Smaug dies 10 minutes into this film. 10 minutes. I heard more than a few, what, that's it? Come on! Behind me. It was, I kind of chuckled at it. So, yeah, my problem with the actual story is that Smaug dies. Points in the movie, they establish Bard, the person who actually kills him, in a very comedic way. But, yeah, he kills him inside of 10 minutes of the film. Inside the books, Bard isn't even introduced until he kills Smaug. They go with a big old backstory and explain how he had the black arrow and he got a long time ago. It was the only thing that could pierce him. Blah blah blah. They explain all that 55 pages before the original book ends. But they established Bard and actually had him, which is a point to the movie. But they put him in a comedic fashion too. He's on top of a building, the bow's broken, his son's there, he uses his son to balance the arrow while he makes a makeshift bow inside of these little pillars, and he's like going like this to fire it. I mean, you can tell that this is ripped straight out of Doctor Who, The Robots of Sherwood, for those who have been keeping up with the new series. I was like, really? Really? I get that it builds tension. It was shot well, and there was a lot of really cool things that he was doing beyond that. But at the same time, it's a problem with the original story, even though it is shot in a way that makes me smile. So, overall, go see the film. It's worth every penny of it. You probably will have some problems with the ending, especially like I did, but you know what? Who cares? So, yeah, I gotta look forward to Annie and Night at the Museum 3 tomorrow. I'm looking forward to one of them, and it's not Annie. Oh well. So, I better call it up. See you all next time.